Hello, everybody. Tracy Mrs. JDog Flanagan with you here today. I'm the co-founder and senior vice president of JDog Brands, and I would like to welcome you to Tactical Treasures, a podcast sharing the stories of veterans and military family members that have been impacted by specific items in their lives. I will be interviewing voices in the veteran space to search for inconspicuous objects and moments that they turned into tactical treasures for their military career, business, or life. Today, I have the honor of speaking with Jaime Chapman. Hello, Jaime. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, Tracy. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have you. I'm just going to read a little bio about you just so our audience can get to know who you are. Jaime Chapman is the co-founder and chief operating officer of the Military Spouse Chamber of Commerce. Her professional background is in human resources and recruitment, where she has placed over 1,600 job seekers in careers, creating an economic impact totaling over $112 million. Jaime has achieved recognition for many awards. Jaime served in the Army Reserve for 6 years and is currently an active duty Army spouse with her family stationed in Texas. She is a proud advocate for the military community, actively working to reduce military spouse unemployment and underemployment. In addition to her work at the Military Spouse Chamber, Jaime provides professional speaking and consulting services for organizations who are looking to hire, retain, and promote military spouse and veteran talent. So I am so excited to speak with you today. This is awesome. So I did say that you have many awards in your portfolio. So I would love to know maybe one or two that were really special to you and what they meant.
One that's really special, I wouldn't call it an award, maybe an accomplishment. I have the great honor of being a scholar at the George W. Bush Center in Dallas, and I'm serving in the third cohort of the Stand 2 Veteran Leadership Program right now.
Oh, wow.
And this has been a transformative experience. The members of my cohort are amazing, and the past members of the cohorts before me were amazing. And it's just a catalyzer for the military community.
Oh, wow. That sounds very interesting. That is really exciting. Um, so tell me a little bit about your military career.
I served in the Army Reserves for 6 years. When I separated, I was an E4. I was a specialist. My job was as a petroleum supply specialist. I
That sounds
served
exciting.
starting out in Oklahoma and then ended up in Fort Devens, Massachusetts when I was separating.
Oh, wow. So, what made you want to join the military and continue serving the veteran community after your time in service?
Well, joining the military initially was kind of impulse. I remember shopping in the mall in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. That's where I'm from. I was going to college there at the time at Cameron University, living with my father. And there's just always service members around. And when you see and are inundated in a military town all the time and you're not a part of the military community, you feel that FOMO, fear of missing out. And so I thought, well, I'm going to go check this out and see what it's all about. So I remember carrying my shopping bags into the recruitment center in the mall, having a conversation with the recruiter. And then a few months later, I was shipping off to basic training.
Wow. Wow, that's really interesting. So now you're still serving, right? You're still serving the veteran community after your time in service. And what did that mean to you by getting out and obviously still having the ability and the want to serve?
I separated from the Army, had a little bit of free time, and then I married right back into the Army. So, talk about a slap in the face becoming a military spouse. You think you know a little bit about the military, and then it's a completely different experience when you're on the other side of the table. And now I'm in support of an active duty service member. And just for context, during my 5 year marriage, we've lived in 4 different homes, had 2 children, and one of our duty stations was actually abroad in Germany. So
Wow.
the employment experience I've had has been a roller coaster at best. And then just the life experiences in moving so many times. It's a pretty hectic and chaotic life. As a huge Game of Thrones fan, I actually would say House Chapman before, and then now I've quit saying that and I say the Chapman Circus because that seems more appropriate.
So you say you've moved many times. So I don't know, in the past 15 years, how many times have you moved?
I was crunching these numbers not too long ago because before I was in the military, I moved a little bit as well. And so I started writing down, I have a visual memory and I was trying to remember where I've lived. And in the past 15 years, I have lived at 14 different addresses.
Oh my gosh, that is crazy. I can't imagine. So that's like moving once a year, right?
Mm,
Oh
pretty
my
much.
gosh,
Our,
that
our
is
longest,
crazy.
my longest time ever to live anywhere was overseas when my husband got stationed in Germany, and we were there about 2.5 years.
Oh,
So,
wow. Wow, that's you're probably like totally so focused as far as packing and moving and that sort of thing. I'm sure you have it down to a science, right?
oh no, that's a circus too. I, Physical possessions have taken on a completely different meaning to me in adulthood than when they did as a child.
Oh,
You move so many times and you see so much of your stuff get broken, and
yeah.
I've become what I call object agnostic. You talk to my husband, and I don't really decorate a lot for Christmas, and he had to pull my arm not long ago, a couple years ago. He twisted my arm just to get me to get a full size Christmas tree. So it's the type of thing I don't want to have extra stuff that I have to lug around
Sh-
and move every couple of
Yeah,
years
that
and
totally
unpack.
makes sense. So I do want to talk about your items, but I want to just circle back for a minute. So I guess being a military spouse and being, like, as you said, on the other side of the table, I'm sure that had something to do with your want and your mission for now being a part of the Military Spouse Chamber of Commerce. So tell me about that. And I understand that you're a co founder. So the other military spouse that you founded it with is Stephanie Brown. And I'm excited to say that she will be featured on one of our podcasts too. She's already signed up and ready to go, and we're really excited to talk to her as your other half in that type of arena. So, explain to me about your passion for the mill spouse.
So, if you have heard anything about the military community, what you probably have not heard about, what's maybe not the common perception of our military community to the public, is that military spouses are one of the most disadvantaged communities in the country. Before the pandemic, our employment hovered around 22 to 24%. And then in the midst of the pandemic, new data has recently came out from the US Chamber of Commerce, Hiring Our Heroes,
Hmm.
that says military spouse unemployment is potentially above 38%.
That's
And so we've got
incredible.
literally nearly half of our military spouses that are unemployed, and they were disproportionately affected by the pandemic.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
22% number was good before the pandemic, but that hadn't moved for us despite an outpouring of support in
right,
employment for a
right.
decade. And how the chamber came along, the Military Spouse Chamber of Commerce, was because we had seen data from Blue Star families that said 48% of military spouses are turning to business ownership. That number is really high compared to the rest of the United States.
Hmm.
The total US population is about 16% entrepreneurial. And so for our military spouses, we needed a voice in the military spouse business owner community, and that the Military Spouse Chamber of Commerce is here to be that voice.
Mm. Yeah, that's amazing work that you're doing there, and it is so needed. I have been kind of venturing into the military spouse space, and I had heard that in 2019, the unemployment was up around 24%, and such a shame. And and I've had the honor of working with the Amplify program and being a mentor to military spouse mentees. So that's been an amazing thing to be a part of and to try to give back and help, military spouses with business ownership and everything, and just trying to be a voice for that because I'm walking that road now. So it's a great work that you're doing, and I would imagine that the Zoom world and the virtual world has probably been helpful to to that space a little bit, maybe.
Military spouses were already gravitating to remote and virtual employment,
Hmm.
and we have a high percentage of gig economy workers that are freelancers or independent contractors. So it just helped provide some more momentum to military spouses who wanted to work from home when suddenly the pandemic happens and there are more remote jobs available to
Right,
apply for.
right. That's great. Yeah, we have to continue to work in that space and help our male spouses, totally. Um, okay, so now I want to segue back to your object agnostic. And I can certainly, now I understand, knowing that you've packed and moved and unpacked and packed again and moved, and that's got to be crazy. Yeah, I'm not a stuff person myself. I like to, try to minimize how much junk I save away, and especially us being in the junk removal business. I've learned to, if you don't use it, you donate it. Um, so, but I'm sure that there are a few things maybe that might have sentimental value that you've kind of held on and continue to move along with you. So I would love to hear about those items.
Actually, right behind my head on the wall is right there a poem. My father wrote
Okay.
this poem over 50 years ago. He's now in his 60s, and the poem is of his age when he was learning how to write and wasn't spelling very well because there's a number of errors on the poem. But the poem is called Mother Dear, and it's a poem he wrote for his mother when he was a little boy. And maybe this is the one possession that I have that I would be absolutely crushed if something happened to it.
Oh,
So,
wow.
about 20 years ago, I stole the poem from my dad. He had it, in a keepsake box somewhere.
Hmm.
I took possession of it and I never gave it back to him. And then since I've had it framed and put it underneath a protected glass that can protect it from UV rays and things like that.
Hmm.
So it means a lot to me. And of all of the things, if I just had to grab one thing and run in a fire or something, that would be the thing I
That would be
grabbed.
the thing that you would grab. Well, that I'm sure is very special, and I'm sure that was very special to, his mom, your grandmother, right? Um,
Right.
I mean, and I'm a mother, and are you a mother?
I have
Yeah.
2 boys now
Oh,
myself. My oldest is 5 and he's learning how to write. And
oh,
uh, he's in the stage where he's drawing me art and trying to
ugh,
write "I love you, mom" on the bottom of it, and it's all misspelled and it's adorable. So
yeah.
it's evolved and taken on a really special meaning to me. This poem, now I understand my grandmother, Granny Pat, she had 6 kids. And for
Wow,
this poem to survive 6 children in poverty and make it 50 years into, another generation,
that's
I know it was
amazing.
really special to her.
Yeah, very
She
special.
passed away before I could remember her when I was about 6 years old myself. And so it made it to me. And
That's
then
a,
something else really cool, fun fact, I didn't know until about a year ago what my Granny Pat even did for work. And it turns out I do the same thing. She worked for years and years in the Workforce Development Center helping folks find jobs.
oh,
And just
okay.
imagine how crazy that coincidence is. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's great. And I myself being a mother, my daughters, they wrote me notes and I loved, the creative cards that they made me, and the little drawings. And I myself have a whole box that has all of that and it's so special to me. So that's really neat that you've been able to find that, grab it and preserve it. That's a really special, story that you can share, with your sons. That's amazing. So I understand you have one other item.
I do. So I have, moved a lot. And my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, used to have an old Singer sewing machine, which has long since been gone. But when we were stationed overseas in Germany, we were thrift store shopping and we found an antique sewing machine. We bought it for 50 euros. And I'm the type of person, my husband hates watching like mystery and cop shows with me because I always figure it out. And it's really, really hard to surprise me. And so we bought this sewing machine, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to go research what brand of sewing machine this is. And it had been refurbished, but the paint had worn off of it. And I researched what brand sewing machine it could possibly be. And turns out there's all kinds of sewing machine and antiquity societies overseas and in the United
Uh-huh.
States. And I sent the photos of this thing to everyone I could find who has expertise in antique sewing machines. and nobody can tell me what brand it is.
Oh
So
my
I have a
gosh.
mystery antique sewing machine that dates probably to the early 1900s that
Wow.
nobody can figure out the brand of.
Now that is a antique treasure.
It is. We found it in Luxembourg, and it has since made it back with us to the United States.
Oh,
So
that's
it's had a
amazing.
fun journey of its own.
Does it work?
It does work.
Wow.
Would if I could sew, it would be in much better it'd be in much better hands.
Oh, wow. That is quite a treasure. We and it's funny because we in our developing our TV show Operation Hidden Treasures, we've come across some treasures that are antiques like that, like a 1920s classic underwriter typewriter and a rotary telephone, and it's been really neat to kind of research those items and find out more about them. But that's really really neat. Thank you for sharing all those cool items that you have.
Well, and the sewing
So,
machine, it's a bit heavy. I don't know if I could grab that one in a fire, but it would haunt me for the rest of my days if something happened to it because I still haven't figured out what brand it is.
oh my gosh, how did you get that back from Germany? You probably
You
had to
know, the
ship it
movers.
special, right?
They wrapped it up in bubble wrap 100 times, and
Oh my
here it
gosh.
is. It made it.
And it made it. Wow, that's amazing. So, tell us what you have going on right now and what projects are you working on and where can people find you?
We, the Military Spouse Chamber, our biggest service offering to the world is really unique and historic. Our flagship service is the Military Spouse Owned Enterprise Certification. So if you think veteran owned business, woman owned business, minority owned business, LGBTQ owned business, we created a certification for military spouse owned business. We launched it in January of 2021. As of
Wow.
this week, we've actually certified our 52nd military spouse owned enterprise, and we are forging relationships both in the private and public sectors to garner national recognition of military spouse owned business as a diverse supplier category. So
Wow.
hopefully, we'll start to see policy and legislation soon to recognize military spouse owned businesses at the Small Business Administration. We are having those conversations. And with the private sector, we've already received a number of household brands who have committed to recognizing and doing business with military spouse owned enterprises. So that's what I'm the most excited about. And that is a hill I will die on. Military spouse owned businesses need to be developed and cultivated and recognized in order to succeed. So that's the first step, is the advocacy work we're doing to just get recognition of military spouse owned business, and then hopefully forge more relationships and give them places for opportunities.
That's amazing. Well, it sounds like you are well on your way. You've done a lot of amazing accomplishments there so far. That's really great work. Great work.
For 9 months, being in existence, we've done all right, but it's because we started with a powerhouse team at the Military Spouse Chamber. Although we're only 9 months old, our team has been in this business for decades. And so we've got a pretty good head start.
That's terrific. So, if people want to find out about you, where can they find out about you and
Our
what you're
work at the
doing?
Military Spouse Chamber is on milspousechamber.org. And then I have a personal website as well, jchapman.com.
Awesome. Great. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today, Jamie. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be our first guest on Tactical Treasures. For all the viewers watching, please don't forget to check out Operation Hidden Treasures premiering on Discovery Channel October 10th at 8 a.m. Eastern Time to see more stories of veterans turning junk to jewels. The new series follows enterprising U.S. military veterans and their families whose mission is to salvage and repurpose otherwise unused items and turn them into hidden treasures for people in need. Every episode will also include a JDog auction of an intriguing item discovered during a cleanout and made available to bid on by the public via the JDog website. Profits from every auction are donated to the JDog Foundation, which helps fund PTSD resources and supporting veteran organizations combating veteran suicide. There are items currently listed for auction, so go and take a look on either jdog.com or operationhiddentreasures.com to see if one of the items can become your new treasure. Don't forget to follow Jamie on all of her outlets, and we look forward to what is in store for the Military Spouse Chamber of Commerce in the future. Jamie, we're going to be watching all the wonderful, amazing work that you are doing and Stephanie Brown's doing. So that it's just awesome, amazing. It was really an honor to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you so much, Tracy.
Thank you so much. Bye now.